third level of conducting systematic literature review after your preparation for PRISMA style, and as well conduct search strategy and prepare your reference management system. The third one is inclusion and exclusion criteria. So I will take you in a short trip to identify what does it mean, and as well how to apply it in a systematic way to be prepared and to include high quality research paper in your systematic literature review. So let's start with the first question is, how do I decide which paper to include or exclude, or basically how to conduct inclusion and exclusion criteria, let's say. So inclusion criteria, it has really a broad landscape. You can identify whether first of all you need to make that the paper by itself is relevant somehow to your research questions. There is internal factor you should take into consideration in terms of quality. There is external factor as well you need to take into consideration regarding the journal reputation and the citation rate of the paper by itself. So if I start from external indicators, that is really necessary to keep in mind when you include your reference or prepare your inclusion criteria. So you need to identify high quality journal or peer reviewed journal. So you have, as we talked before, that you have ABS journal rank. You need to have a look about this, or as well you can justify whether the paper you selected is indexed in famous or popular academic database, and as well has been published in a common or popular and famous publisher like Elsevier, like Springer, like Wiley, or all of these guys which we know already. So famous names is famous publisher is high quality paper, let's say. This brings to us as well the question of predatory publication. So if you are seeking about high quality publication, so you need as well to avoid predatory publication, which is unknown, and as well it is not indexed in a famous academic database. And as well they have like fast track of acceptance. They don't really send a peer review report as normal traditional track, and as well they have aggressive type of payment that they ask to pay directly after submitting your paper, which give you some suspicious that it is not really right one. So better to avoid these tracks and focus only about the paper which comes from familiar, let's say, publisher and indexed in academic database. So this is somehow external indicator before you start. So you use academic database to search about the paper, and as well on the other hand you check this paper is really published in a popular and common publisher, and it has some data in Google Scholar or in academic database, so you are pleased with this data, so you can have it. The second things I would like to highlight is internal indicator for inclusion criteria you are doing or you are going to conduct it. So internal indicators actually refers to many factors you need to take into consideration when you identify these stuff. The first of all is the structure and the quality of the paper by itself. So you have that this paper has a title, has a abstract, introduction, and methodology, result, and discussion. For each section you need to know exactly if this section already let's say is quality or high quality rates of publication or no. Let's go one by one. If I'm focusing about introduction, so you can see if literature review done with the recent literature, actual literature, relevant literature. It's not only about reporting from literature or writing in a descriptive way. You need to identify that this literature somehow is synthesized somehow in a way to provide the weaknesses, strengths of each study, why the study conducted, and how it is really related to your research questions. In a way that you can list research gap clearly and obviously. So this way you need to keep in mind as well. The second section is methodology section. Methodology section actually raise a lot of questions you need as well to keep in the back of your brain. Which is a symbol sufficient? Is a number of symbol is enough to investigate the phenomenon you are going to do? Or there is a short number or small number of sample size which can really reflect the quality or the sufficiency of the methodology you are going to do. For example, if we say investigating the usage of AI in academic writing, and you select 2 PhD students to ask for their or elicit their experiences. So this is not enough. This is insufficient. If you take, for example, 15 students, that would be enough. So you can discover, you can detect all of this stuff, and whether you decide is it really sufficient or not. The second things as well is if the researcher use like research data collection tools, so he need definitely to refer validity and reliability of these tools, and you need to check it out if it's really done in a good way, in a good manner. Sample size has to be justified as well, and calculated at some points, like G power and all of this stuff. So you need to review all of this and see if it's really methodology written in a rigorous methodology or rigorous style, and shows really systematic way of following the data collection and applying the data analysis or not. One more thing, if the researcher selects the data analysis approach which is fit to research questions or fit to the data collection he collected. So you need to identify and match research questions with the data analysis approach they select to perform. So the next section is the result section. And the most important factors when you evaluate the paper regarding the result or finding section is whether the findings are potential answer for research questions or not. So you need as well to keep this in mind. After this, the discussion section. Discussion is something that give a meaning why the finding happen in that way. And you need always to justify your finding by relation to previous literature review. So when you evaluate paper in this manner, you need as well to evaluate this perspective, whether the study already explain its findings in relation to literature review or not. What is the difference between the result here and literature review? What is the contribution here? The last things you have to look into is the conclusion. And to evaluate conclusion, you have to evaluate whether the study or researcher identify his or the study's limitation or not. The bias, the sample size, all of this stuff has to be justified. And if the researcher at some points forgot to identify the study limitations, so this is as well indicator of weaknesses of the study, so you need to exclude it at some points. So this is somehow the internal factor you should keep in mind when you critically evaluate the paper and you decide whether you take it or not. So inclusion criteria as well can be include somehow The place where the study conducted. You know, I need only to collect studies conducted in Europe or US or UK or North Africa, whatever your research questions cover. So you need to identify this. At some point, the researcher as well needs to filter the language of paper by itself, whether I need English written papers or doesn't matter, I need a different language together based on research questions and the covering of the papers. So this point has to be identified as well. Methodology. Some of criteria or researcher would say, okay, I want only quantitative research when they conduct meta-analysis or systematic literature review. This would make sense. On the other hand, when they conduct, for example, like I need only qualitative research to conduct a scoping review, or I would focus only about qualitative research, so here you are as well. So whether qualitative, quantitative or mixed method, you need to put it as the main indicators for your inclusion criteria as well. So all of these guys, it's really important indicators to put in inclusion and exclusion criteria. Mention as well the journal you collect from it, the high quality reputation of the paper, citation rate of the papers as well, if it makes sense with you. So all of this. Next questions I would cover as well, how many papers are enough for systematic literature review, and I have answered these questions in previous video, but I will repeat it again. The answer is it depends. So if you make like let's say like narrow systematic literature review or rapid systematic literature review, which you need only like maximum 40 paper, from 20 to 40 paper would be enough. For PhD levels, I guess from 40 till 100, this range could be as well sufficient for conducting systematic literature review. If you want to make broad or more like, you know, a broad range or scoping sometimes in a scoping literature review, so you need to look above 100 or 150. That makes sense for the mapping the knowledge and the covering the new concept you are investigating. So this is the answering of how many papers I should include in. There is no indicator actually, but this is just, you know, common sense between researcher in that area. The next question is, how do I identify strengths and weaknesses? We already covered this. And what does critical thinking actually mean in literature review? Critical thinking means when the literature review already identifies the knowledge gap. It gives you not only one direction, but two directions at least, and then between these two directions, you are able to reach the gaps or research gaps between the paper by itself. So to conclude, inclusion and exclusion criteria is really essential in conducting systematic literature review. You have to put clear internal indicators and external indicator for including your references, and once you have these references, to make sure about the quality and about relevancy and about this stuff, you need to screen this. So you can start with the title and then abstract and then conclusion and go through it, through the whole full text, as I say, to identify this stuff. And as a practical guide for this step, you can create Microsoft Excel file and then say, okay, this study I include, this study not include or exclude, and this study may be. So you can cover 20 or 30 papers in a batch, and then you decide by this file and you put it as the transparent systematic, you know, approach you followed as well when you go through this stuff.